Good day, everyone, and welcome to another poetry recording with English with Joshua. This is poem number 9 on the grade 12 prescribed poetry list. The title of the poem is Fern by Dylan Thomas. So look at the background of the poet. Dylan Thomas was born in Wales in 1914 and sadly passed away in 1953. He left school at the age of 16 to pursue a literary career. He was famous for his original and lyrical poetry and radio broadcasts. If we look at the historical context of the poem, we can also consider the title here. This poem speaks of the beauty of an actual place named Fern Hill, where Thomas spent time as a child. It is essentially a reflection of his happy times at this place. It is certainly an autobiographical poem. The summary of the poem. The speaker reflects on and celebrates the joy he experienced during his youth in the countryside. He reflects on the freedom he felt and the beauty that surrounded him. It is a nostalgic poem, as the speaker, once an innocent child, is aware of his loss of innocence and fantasy freedom. In Fern Hill, Thomas presents an idyllic view of childhood on a farm, filled with vivid imagery which presents a child's view of the world. This is contrasted in the final stanzas with the regret of the adult as he recalls the loss of innocence and splendor of childhood. The speaker says that when he was young, he did not realize that the days at Fern Hill could be so few. He was not aware of his own innocence, neither was he aware of the beauty around him. The structure of the poem. This poem consists of 6 stanzas. However, there is no definite structure. Each stanza comprises of 9 lines. There is a strict syllabic count in each line, which is repeated in each stanza. Despite the strict syllabic count or rhythm, there is no specific form to this poem. The poem is song-like in its rhythm. The poem can be divided into 2 parts. The first 3 stanzas are related to the poet's experience as a child, and the last 3 stanzas focus on the awakening in the child, which signifies the loss of innocence. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle starry, time let me hail and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes. And on and among wagons I was prince of apple towns, and once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves, trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard and singing as the farm was home, in the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. And green and golden I was, huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold, and the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. All the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hayfields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys, it was air and playing, lovely and watery and fire green as grass. And nightly under the simple stars as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard, blessed among the stables, the nightjars flying with the ricks, and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to wake, and the farm, like a wanderer white with the dew, come back, the cock on his shoulder. It was all shining, it was Adam and maiden. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew round the very day. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the first spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm, out of the whining green stable, onto the fields of praise. and honored among foxes and pheasants by the gay house, under the new-made clouds, and happy as heart was long. In the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless ways, my wishes raced through the house-high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky-blue trades, that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs, before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days, that time would take me up to the swallow throng loft by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising, nor the riding to sleep. I should hear him fly with a high field, and wake up to the farm forever fled from the childless land. Oh, I was young and easy in the mercy of his means. Time held me green and dying, though I sank in my chains like the sea. The first 9 lines. Now as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house, and happy as the grass was green. The word now indicates that the speaker is an adult reflecting on his youth. Bough means branch, easy means carefree, and now lilting house, and happy as the grass was green. Lilting means singing merrily. Green here is associated with youth, innocence, inexperience, and naivety. The child had no worries and no cares, hence the freedom he felt. The speaker describes his blissful delight when he was a child who enjoyed nature. He recalls how he enjoyed living in the arms of wild nature, playing under the apple trees. The simile here with happy as the grass was green. The grass is green is because the house is alive, in the same way the house is always alive. So we see that this is a happy place for the speaker. The night above the dingle starry. Dingle means valley with forests. Starry is the sky being filled with stars. He focuses on its beauty as he is captured by its charm. Time let me hail and climb golden in the heydays of his eyes. Hail is to call out to someone in greeting. Heydays are the best times of your life, and golden has a positive connotation. So we see that the child enjoyed his time and his happy days at Fern Hill. Time is personified as a parent that allows him to do things. The reason for his freedom and happiness is that the child was not yet worried about time. So time is personified as the friend and ally of a child, unlike adults who are constantly pressed and tormented by time. Time was basically a playmate here. And honored among wagons, I was the prince of apple towns. Gold has connotations of wealth and beauty and autumn, leaves turning and sunlight and yellow flowers. Golden also has connotations of glory. He was honored among the wagons, and he sees himself as a prince. He compares himself in this metaphor as somebody who controls everything, and the world of that farm was his dominion. And once below a time, I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. A metaphor appears here again, as the speaker compares himself to a lord. This place made him feel like royalty. The windfall is an apple blown down from a tree, so this suggests fortune or luck. Light here is also being compared to a river filled with riches. Down the rivers of the windfall light. This is a metaphor. So we see here that the landscape around him is rich with flowers, fields of barley and rivers of light. It is indeed a paradise, and he felt like he was the prince and a lord ruling this paradise. This gives the impression that it is an idyllic time, like the Garden of Eden. The boy seems to be in harmony with nature. These lines describe his surroundings and a typical day on his aunt's farm at Fern Hill. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard and singing as the farm was home. He continues to revisit his happy childhood in a series of flashbacks. He recalls how naive, innocent, and inexperienced he was then, but also how he lived without any worries or cares. As an adult, he thinks he was green as a child. Being naive or green is a small cost of being happy and carefree. Unlike children, adults are careworn, unhappy, and struggle daily to make ends meet. So this links to his childhood, him being green and carefree. It's natural that he felt like he was the ruler over everything he could see. Instead of being famous worldwide, the child was famous amongst the barns where animals are kept and rural festivities were held. He is famous among country people, and he is the master of the animal world. Farm was home. He had a sense of belonging. Also, he was oblivious of the adult world. Lines 12 to 14. In the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be, golden in the mercy of his means. In the sun that is young once only, again, time is personified. We are all at the mercy of time because we cannot stop time. This also indicates that we are only young once. And as he was young, he felt everything around him was just as young, including the sun under which he played freely and merrily. These times are a golden and precious gift that time gave him out of its kindness and mercy. And green and golden I was huntsman and herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold. This is another metaphor. It compares the speaker to a hunter and herdsman. The child imagines that he was the hero. Sometimes he was a huntsman blowing his horn, going after wild animals and foxes and hunting them the way first human beings did. Other times he was the herdsman or the shepherd tending his cattle. It is important to also note the alliteration in the G's. This alliteration emphasizes his innocence and the perfection of his childhood. In his mind, all the creatures obeyed him. Also note the C alliteration in clear and cold. This emphasizes the fact that the creatures obeyed him. And the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles of the holy streams. The Sabbath is a biblical illusion that creates a mood of reverence or deep respect. Rang refers to the church bells. Fern Hill is not only seen as a place of childhood adventure, but as a sacred or holy place. Pebbles of a holy stream is a metaphor that compares the ringing of bells to the sound of water running across the stones in the stream. It is as if the very streams sing a song of praise to God in the sound of the water running over the pebbles, in the beauty and glory of this rural childhood. He felt like worshipping in the temple of nature, and the holy altar was the water stream whose pebbles' noise felt like hymns in his ears. All the sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hay, fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimney, it was air. The sun represents the passing of time. Note the unusual word order in line 19, which creates a personification. The child is still speaking, gushing on his past memories. He is still that playing, innocent child who has no cares and no worries. The lovely sun is now running as autumn days are shorter. It was long summer days that were beautiful and seemed to never end. The harvest is done, the haystacks stand piled high as a house. This is a simile. The chimneys do not send smoke out in the air, but music that he liked. This is also a hyperbole. The height of the hay is compared to the height of the house. The tune from the chimneys indicates that everything is so magical and perfect that even the chimneys sing. This is a personification. It was air and playing lovely and watery, and fire green as grass, and nightly under the simple stars. His playing is never interrupted, even when he was all drenched in rain and the days are cold. Even the fire looked green in his eyes, like the green grass. The air seemed to be a kind of water full of wonderful things. Playing was easy and magical. The fire green as grass. Even the fire looked green in his eyes, like the green grass. This is a simile. The fire is given a vivid color, which is green. This shows how vivid his childhood memories were. As the child drifts off to sleep, he imagines that the entire farm is carried away into dreamland by the owls whose call is heard in the night. He heard the singing of birds like the nightjars, which made of the stable their homes. In the darkness, the farm is no less noisy than in the day, or no less bright, as he sees the eyes of horses flashing in the darkness and hears them singing and noises of night life. In short, he felt blessed and happy and free. At the end of the stanza, number 3, the child's symbolic sleep ends in a flashing light in the dark. This flash is the light of awareness and signals the loss of paradise, freedom, and innocent bliss. The horses flashing into the dark. And then to awake, and the farm like a wanderer white, with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder. Dew is early morning, wanderer is a traveler, and then to awake. This is where the turning point takes place. He is no longer young and carefree. The farm is personified as a traveler returning with the dew and a rooster, announcing that it is morning. But it could also mean that when the child wakes up, the farm looks different to him. He is like a wanderer on a farm and feels disconnected. A cock is a rooster, and this is an allusion to the betrayal of Jesus in the Christian faith. A rooster crowed when Jesus was betrayed. We get the idea that time is betraying the boy. How do we say this? It is because time is causing the boy to grow up. It was all shining. It was Adam and Maiden. The reference to Adam and his maiden refers to the Garden of Eden and creation of man. He suggests that his time at Fern is comparable to Adam and Eve's time in the garden before the loss of innocence. It is idyllic and beautiful and free. He was very happy there. The adult world is not as carefree as that of childhood, and the speaker experiences a sense of regret and loss as he moves from one to the other. The sky gathered again, and the sun grew around the very day. We see here that he watches as the sun is rising up to the sky and the day is being created. It's alluding to the creation story, the separation of day and night. That very day suggests that he remembers this day as it was one great, significant day to him. It's also symbolic of his growing up. He was no longer a child. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the first spinning place. Spinning place refers to the Garden of Eden or to earth. The speaker says that the new awareness of the world that a maturing child feels must be similar to the awareness that Adam and Eve had after they were dismissed from the garden. As the sun shines, all creatures wake up to glorify nature and praise its beauty and abundance. Spellbound horses. They are mesmerized by the beauty surrounding them. That is the beauty of Fern Hill. As the sun shines, all creatures wake up to glorify nature and praise its beauty and abundance. The farm horses leave their stable with the birth of light and go to the fields to join the rest of the natural world in prayer or hymn that is addressed to the farm. This creates a mood of reverence. And honored among foxes and pheasants by the gay house, under the new-made clouds, and happy as the heart was long. He felt honored like royalty. A pheasant is a large bird with a rounded body and a long tail that spends a lot of time on the ground and is often shot for a sport or food. We see here that gay house is also a happy place, a place where he is found to be very happy. He felt as if the foxes, the pheasants, and the other animals were his friends, and they loved him and honored him as they wandered around the happy and merry house of Fern Hill. Gay means happy. The house is personified to reflect how the child felt about the house. It was lively and happy and filled with merriment and joys. This shows that the speaker is moving towards acceptance of his loss of his childhood freedom. The sun is born over and over. I ran my heedless ways. The speaker recalls with a sense of regret and intense nostalgia that he was in the sun born over and over. I ran in my heedless ways when he was young. He admits that he was heedless as a child and how the farm gave him all that he needed and made him feel complete. My wishes raced through the house high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky blue treads that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs. His wishes seemed to be fulfilled as quickly as the stacks of hay grew up high in the house. The sun bathed him with its warmth and light, and he felt free looking at the blue sky. Sky blue trades are activities. He was too occupied to care that time was passing by and did not realize that his childhood paradise would end. His dreams and his imaginations were running wild. The alliteration of H in house, high, and hay emphasized his excitement. And nothing I cared at my blue sky trades. Blue sky trades here means activities. He was too occupied to care that the time was passing by and did not realize that his childhood paradise would end. He felt time is kind and loving, and he could hear its morning music and singing. Before the child green and golden follow him out of grace. Children green and golden refers to children who were still young and naive. They did not have any worry and were in complete harmony with time. The child speaker talks proudly and happily about his adventures in Fern Hill Farm. Grace here indicates a fall from grace or innocence and suggests he has moved from a state of perfect union to an awareness of reality. The embrace of reality brings it with regret and loss of freedom. To follow him, this is symbolic of Adam and Eve leaving Eden. His carefree world has been left behind. Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days that time would take me up to the swallow throng loft by the shadow of my hand. The speaker returns to the present. The child becomes an adult and leaves behind the innocence of his past. Time will take my hand and change me. As a child, the speaker did not think that life would ever be any different. Time would take me. Time is personified here. He is aware of time even though he is unaware of anything else. Time is guiding him and leading him until he loses the carefree attitude of the child. Up to the shallow throng loft, that is a high place full of swallows or birds. A shadow is something negative and something unpleasant that is being introduced. In the moon that is always rising, nor that riding to sleep, I shall hear him fly with the high fields and wake up to the farm forever fled from the childless lands. He felt that all nights are bright with the moon, which is always rising. Looking back on his life, it felt like his childhood suddenly ended. Nor that riding to sleep, I shall hear him fly with the high fields. So literally, even when he was going home after nightfall, he could hear the swallows flying over the fields, which were so high as they sit on the hill. While the figurative meaning could be how he goes to sleep without worries and without cares. All he thinks of is to wait for the morning so that he would have another playful and joyful day. Maybe he feels that time has betrayed him again. And awake to a farm forever fled. Here we see that maturity and the chains of adulthood came all too quickly for the speaker, and the speaker laments the lost days of his youth. He accepts that once childhood is left behind, there is no going back unless the tool of creation is used. Only then can an individual tap into the joy and freedom experienced in childhood, and even then, the joy is brief. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying. Oh, is a great cry of regret or sorrow. This is the turning point at which the child speaker disappears and adult steps in to tell us all about the experience of waking up from the dream of childhood memories. The farm is no longer crowded with the laughter and the noise of playing children. It becomes childless, that is barren and fallow. The poet is mourning the end of his childhood. He feels that although he is an adult, he still feels green or inexperienced. This suggests that people do not necessarily become wiser when they grow older. He starts to feel the sting of time, and now time is no longer kind or gentle, but is leading him to the end which the child was unaware of. Deep inside, he feels he is still green or naive, yearning to relive his childhood pleasures, but he is no longer the child as he has lost his freedom and is now burdened with worries and cares. Time and experience has put him in bonds or chains, and he is their prisoner. The simile, like the sea, shows the vastness of his feelings, but also the depth of despair. The speaker has made peace with his loss of freedom and accepts that it is the natural way of life. The lightness, ease, and joys of the days of innocence are gone forever and never to return. In their place, the speaker, now an adult, is living through the harshness and hardships of days of experience and awakening. The use of the verb sang creates hope. The losses can be captured through his memories. The green and golden joy of childhood and the shadowy sorrow of maturity become the joy of art, that is, poetry. In this manner, the loss to time is not total. It is possible to use art to recapture the happiness of innocent youth. The tone. The first 5 stanzas, it illustrates joy and happiness, and the last 5 shift dramatically from joy to lamentation or a deep sadness. The mood here is nostalgic. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you find it helpful, and I hope that you like, share, and subscribe. The whole night long, the speaker hears the night sounds.